Okay, so let's learn. Let's learn a little bit. It's a big crowd tonight. It's good. Baruch Hashem. Start off with a bang. This week's parsha, Parshas Terumah. This week's parsha. So the Torah tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded to tell the Jewish people to build a Mishkan, to build a tabernacle, to build a Beis Hamikdash in the desert for the Jewish people, for Hashem's presence to reside amongst us. You should make a Beis Hamikdash for me, and I'll come and live with you, says Hashem to the Jewish people. So there's something very peculiar. There's something very odd about the process of building the Mishkan that took place in this week's parsha. The Gemara tells us that everything that they did to build the Mishkan, we learn out from there what we're not allowed to do on Shabbos. Every malacha, every act of building that they did to build the Mishkan is considered something that we're not allowed to do on Shabbos. We rest on Shabbos from all those things that they did to build the Mishkan. So it's very weird. It's very strange. What is this connection between building a Beis Hamikdash, building a Mishkan, and Shabbos? What does that have to do with Shabbos? Why is it that all of a sudden the Torah decides to tell us what the halachas of Shabbos in description of what they did to build the Mishkan? What does Shabbos and the Mishkan have to do with each other? That's Aleph. Days. The pasuk goes on to tell us also in this week's parsha that one of the main ingredients, one of the main items that they used to build the Beis Hamikdash was something called atzei shitim wood. A certain type of tree called shitim. They used that tree to build many parts of the Beis Hamikdash. The infrastructure of the Beis Hamikdash was built of this tree called shitim. So the Gemara says, where did the Jewish people in the desert get all these trees called shitim? Where did they get these trees from? So the Gemara says an unbelievable thing. That Yaakov Avinu, back in the day of Yaakov Avinu knew with prophecy that the Jewish people were going to have to build the Beis Hamikdash in the desert. And he also knew that they were going to have to use these trees. So the Gemara says that Yaakov Avinu preemptively planted these types of trees in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, so that the Jewish people, and he told his children that when you leave Egypt, eventually Hashem will take you out of exile and you'll leave Egypt, take these trees with you. And whatever reason, take them with you, trust me, you'll need them. And then when the day came in this week's parsha that Hashem says, build a Mishkan, build a Beis Hamikdash, and use atzei shitim, so Baruch Hashem, we have these trees that Yaakov Avinu planted in Egypt. So the obvious question is, why is it? Why is it that of all the materials, of all the things that were needed to build a Beis Hamikdash, it's dafka these trees of atzei shitim that Yaakov Avinu prepared in Mitzrayim? Why is it? They needed gold, they needed silver, they needed a lot of stuff. Why is it that specifically trees, this lumber that they needed, Yaakov Avinu specifically planted in Egypt as a preparation for the building? Why isn't? So these are the issues that we have to talk about. So let's talk about something which is very practical and it's very lemaisa. It's very much for us. Every single person here, every single one of us wants to be a tzaddik. Every single one of us wants to serve Hashem with all our strength. There's no question. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Every single one of us wants to serve Hashem and to be a tzaddik with all his heart and with all his soul. That's the truth of all of us. And every single one of us, we all know, like the pasuk says, Lev Yudei Maras Nafshay, the heart knows its own bitterness. Every single one of us knows that we've done things in the past that maybe we're not so proud of. Every single person here has regrets. Every single person here feels and recognizes the distance that we have to Hashem. Every single one of us wants to cross over and wants to come close to Hashem. So the question is, what's stopping us? What's stopping us from doing real tshuva? It's not a lack of belief. We all believe in Hashem. We all believe in the Torah. We believe that we need to become tzaddikim. We need to become holy people. So what's stopping us? What's the block? What's stopping the Jewish people from doing tshuva? You know, Rav Kook said in one of his farm that the power of tshuva, the ultimate strength of tshuva, has never yet been revealed. Not one person in human history has used the power of tshuva to the extent that it can be used. The power of tshuva has never yet been revealed. What's stopping us? What's stopping us from becoming who we have to become? So I want to talk about something that's very pashut, very simple, and very true, and something that we have to live with. We have to chaz this over every single day. Every single day. Let's talk very simple. You want to know a real simple reason? One of the most fundamental reasons why is it that we feel ourselves, we can't do tshuva, we can't come close to Hashem, we can't change ourselves, we can't become who we have to become, who we can become. The reason is because we're not only embarrassed with the things that we've done, we're embarrassed with who we are. What does that mean? That means when one of us, God forbid, does something we're not so proud of. You know what happens? You know what happens? You know how we look at ourselves? We don't say, I did something not good. But when we do something that we're embarrassed of, what usually happens to a Jewish neshama is that the Jewish neshama feels so embarrassed by the act. It feels so depressed and dejected. It feels that it itself is terrible. We look at ourselves. We don't say that we're good people that do bad things sometimes. We therefore redefine it. We look at ourselves as bad people. It's what stops us from doing tshuva is the following mistake, that we think in order to do tshuva we have to become new people. We have to completely break down who we are, forget our past, forget everything that we know, forget everything that we've become accustomed to, and become reborn again, become completely something different. And that's a very scary and impossible feat. That's impossible. So how is it? So that's the problem with us. We look at our history, we look at our background, we look at the things that we've done, the mistakes that we've made, how far we are from Hashem, and we say that, you know what? The reason why I'm so far is because there's something wrong with me. There's something really wrong with me. I am not a person who's connected to Hashem. I am someone who's inherently distant from Hashem. So how do I come close to Him? I have to be someone new. I have to be someone different. Me as me is impossible. It's that mistake that stops us from becoming who we have to become. It's that mistake. The Jew has to realize, every single Jew has to recognize that every single part of him, his character, his heart, his mind, his background, every single event in his life is not only are they things holding you back from coming close to Hashem, they are specifically tailor-made for you to be vehicles to come close to Him. Let me read you the words of Rav Tzadok HaKohen. Rav Tzadok HaKohen was a great Hasidic masters in the 1800s. Listen to this. And this is the way a Jew has to approach himself, and this is the way a Jew has to approach coming close to Hashem and doing tshuva. Rav Tzadok writes, Kol ha'koiches ha'netuos b'kol nefesh miYisrael. Every character, every strength, every aspect of the Jewish neshama, of the Jewish personality of every single Jew, ein lachshav shehu ra gomer. It's usher to think that it's pure evil. It's usher to think, it's an avera. It's usher to think that there's any part of one of us that's inherently bad. It's usher. And we have to change ourselves to become close. There is not one character trait, there's not one power in the Jewish people that doesn't have good. There's no such thing. All we have to do is not change. We don't have to change ourselves. We just have to focus ourselves in the right direction. That's all that's necessary. Rav Nachman Breslover used to say that, people say, the Baalei Mussar say that a person has to break his midah, a person has to break his character. Rav Nachman said in a joking way, if you break a bad character, you have two bad characters. You don't break a bad character, you just take your characters and you zone them in, you harness them to serve Hashem. Rav Tzadok writes, there is no such thing as a Jew that has any inherently evil qualities in him at all. What happens to us is that we are good people that sometimes do not so good things. It's this mistake that holds us back from greatness. It's such a terrible mistake. Let me tell you a ma'aseh in the Gemara. This is one of the most unbelievable ma'asim in all of Shas. In all of Shas, it's one of the most unbelievable. The Gemara says, it's in the Gemara of Avodah Zarah. The Gemara says that there was a person named Elazar ben Durdaya. Elazar ben Durdaya. Now this guy, he was a Jew. He was the worst Jew on the planet. This guy, the Gemara says, he was a very passionate individual. He visited every woman that was not so proper. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? He went all that stuff. He was involved in all that stuff. The Gemara says there wasn't one woman like that he wasn't involved with. So fine, he's going like that for many, many years, forgetting about Torah mitzvahs. He's mamish the worst Jew who ever lived. If you could ever think that there's a Jew who's bad, it's this guy, Elazar ben Durdai. So the Gemara says that there was one woman that he was with a number of years later down the road, and this woman found out that he's Jewish, and after they were together, the woman says to him, Elazar, after all the stuff that you've done in your life, I'm sure your people have kicked you out already. I'm sure it's not possible for you to go back to your people. So hearing those words from this woman shook him up very strongly. It shook him up very, very much. And he then and there decided, he hit rock bottom. Having this woman tell him how bad he is, it just, that was rock bottom. And he decided then and there, I have to do tshuva. I have to do tshuva. So the Gemara says the following thing, that Elazar ben Dodaya went to the mountains, and he said, mountains, ask Hashem to forgive me. And the mountains answered to Elazar ben Dodaya, we don't have the strength to do that. Okay? So he goes to the heavens, and he says, heavens, ask Hashem to forgive me. And the heavens say, we don't have the strength to do that too. He goes to the oceans, and so on and so forth, the Gemara says. Until Elazar ben Dodaya said the following thing. Nira, so after all this, it seems, Ki ein hadavar toli elabi, that it's up to me. It's up to me to fix myself. That's it. It's not up to the heavens or the mountains or the oceans or the depths. It's not up to anything else. Ein hadavar toli elabi. It's all up to me. So the Gemara says Elazar ben Dodaya sat then and there. He put his head between his knees and he started crying, intensely crying, doing tshuva, until through his intense tshuva and his intense davening, his neshama left him. He died. And at that moment, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said, a baskel came out, a heavenly voice came out from heaven and said, Rabbi Elazar ben Dodaya is destined for Olam Haba. That's the Gemara. It's one of the most unbelievable ma'asim you'll ever hear. What does it mean that Elazar ben Dodaya went to the heavens, and he went to the mountains? It means a lot of things, but on a very simple level, you know what it means? It means Elazar ben Dodaya hit rock bottom. And he looked at his life, and he looked at everything that he's ever done, and he therefore came to the logical conclusion that he is an awful guy. That he is a terrible human being. And there's no way how he, as who he is, how he was born, is possible for him to come back. It's impossible. And therefore, what does he have to do? He has to go find other people to be the in-between. He has to go to the heavens or the mountains, whatever these things mean. He goes to them and he asks them, please, I'm completely disconnected. There's nothing about me that's anything good. I need your help. I need you to beseech Hashem for me. And the mountains say, the heavens say, it's not up to us. We can't do that. Elazar ben Dodaya then finally came to the truth. What's the truth? The truth that our Tzaddik just told us. That there is no such thing in any Jew. Doesn't matter if you hit rock bottom or not. There is no such thing as a Jewish person born from the Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov that's inherently bad. There is no such thing. And he came to that conclusion that, you know what, all my life, I was born with a tremendous passion, with a tremendous fire. My big mistake was not that I had that passion. My mistake was how I used it. My mistake was that I harnessed that passion in the wrong way, in not holy ways. So he decided then and there, I don't have to become someone new. I don't have to go to the heavens and ask other people to fix me. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. I've just been doing terrible mistakes. And all I have to do is therefore harness the passion that I was born with to serve Hashem. And he put his head between his knees, which was the way of the prophets, to meditate in a certain high level, and he focused all his passion, all his energy on serving Hashem. In such a strength, in such an unbelievable way, that it actually killed him. And he died in the process of doing tshuva. And then the Baskel came out and said, Rabbi Elazar ben Dodaya is destined for Olam Haba, because he realized the truth, that there was nothing really wrong with him. He was conducting his life. But there's nothing inherently wrong with a Jew. This is so important for all of us. The entire world tells us, our Yetzer Hara, ourselves, we sometimes tell ourselves that because of the things that we've done, we've messed so much up in our lives that we cannot come back. You can only come back if you go to Israel, if you know the right people, you go to the right Rebbes, they'll give you the right brachas and all that stuff. It's a terrible mistake. It's a Yetzer Hara that's holding us back from becoming who we have to become. It's terrible. What we have to remember is the truth. That every single aspect of our lives, whether it be our character, whether it be our personal history, all our baggage, everything that Hashem created for us is specifically tailor-made to make us return to Him. You know, the Medrash, I've mentioned this before, the Medrash says that Avram Avinu, after he became Avram Avinu, was embarrassed for those few years before he became Avram Avinu, right? He wasn't born knowing about Hashem. He came to Hashem when he got older. So he was embarrassed of himself. He sort of, and the Medrash says that he tried to forget his past. Avram Avinu, when he became Avram Avinu, decided, I have to just forget about those X number of years that I didn't know about Hashem. And the Medrash says the following thing, that Hashem told to him prophetically, that Avram Avinu, I don't want you to forget about your past, the opposite. I want you to really remember your past. I want you to remember where you came from. And I want you to use that past to serve me. Go to other people and tell them that it doesn't matter that you weren't born with a certain awareness. It doesn't matter that you weren't born in a certain neighborhood in a certain thing. I was also like that. I was born to a terrible father, and I grew up by worshiping idols. But I changed and I became Avram Avinu. So can you. This is a tremendous insight that the way of service of Hashem is not to change oneself. There's no such thing as changing oneself. Because if you change yourself, you're therefore admitting that what you were before is no good. And that's not true. Chas v'sholom. Every single one of us, by a very definition of being born a Jew, means that we are utterly connected to Hashem. It doesn't matter where we go. We could like Yonah Hanavi, right? Yonah tried to escape. It doesn't matter. We all try to escape every once in a while. And it doesn't work. Hashem caught Yonah, Hashem will catch each and every one of us. It doesn't matter how far we go in all four corners of the world, Hashem is always with us. Because every single character that we have, like Rav Tzadok says, Ein lach sheshu ra gomer. It's usher to think that there's anything inherently wrong with it. You know, the Sanzer Rav, Reb Chaim Sanzer, is a big Hasidic Rebbe also. He used to say the following parable, he used to say the following story. He said that, he was on a Motzei Shabbos, he said this over. He said that there was one time a bird. There was a very strong, magnificent bird, and it was able to soar extremely, extremely high. But what happened one day, it was walking on the ground, and its feet got stuck in the mud. So what did it do to try to get out of it? So it stuck its head, its beacon, to try to dig its feet out of the mud. But the more it stuck its beacon, the more it tried to dig itself out, the deeper it dug itself in. And now its head and its feet, everything is stuck in the mud. So until another person came and told the bird, "Bird, what are you trying to dig yourself out? You have wings. Just flap your wings and fly, and you'll just fly out of the dirt." So the Sanzarov said that's the same story that goes on with each and every one of us. We make the same stupid mistake the bird did. We get stuck in the mud sometimes. So you know what we do? We forget who we are. We forget the strength and the power that we have, and we decide, how do I get out of this dirt? Let me dig more and more. Let me think about how terrible I am. And thinking about the dirt gets you stuck more in the dirt. The way out of the dirt is just to flap your wings and fly. If you remember how high a Jew can reach, how magnificently, deeply connected a Jew is to Hashem, the dirt just goes away automatically. It's not. You don't have to think of it. You don't have to, dig your way out. You could fly your way out of it. This is such an unbelievably strong message. And let me tell you what the Gemara says. An unbelievable thing. We mentioned before that the Beis Hamikdash in the desert had to be built from, again, this type of wood called atzei shitim wood. So the pasuk says like this. Listen to this. The pasuk says that when they use that wood to build a vessel, whatever it is that they used to build with, so the pasuk says atzei shitim omdim. They have to stand straight. When you build with them, they have to be straight. What does that mean? That means that if you, let's say, take the tree and you turn into a cup, whatever. So the halacha was that the top of the tree had to turn into the top of the cup, and the bottom of the tree had to turn into the bottom of the cup. Right? You couldn't have the top of the tree made from the bottom and the bottom from the top. You understand, right? So everything had to be formed in the way it grows. Like the Gemara says, derech gedilasam, that you use the trees the way it grows naturally. It naturally grows from going up. So the top of the tree is used for the top of the things. The bottom of the tree for the bottom of the things. What does that tell us? Why is it such a strange halach? And the truth is, from there, we learn out for us practically. On Sukkot, when you take lulav and esrog, right, you have to take them up, standing up, right? Let's say you take a lulav upside down, and you shake it like that. So the halach is you're not yotze. Why? It's from this concept that we learn out from what the pasuk says about building the Beis Hamikdash, that it has to be the way it grows. Every mitzvah that we do has to be in its natural growth, in a natural way. The lulav is up, straight up, and not upside down. It's a strange halacha. Why is it? What's the Torah telling us with this idea? That when you use the trees and whenever you do a mitzvah, it has to be derech gedilas in the way it grows. You know what the Torah is telling us? It's telling us this thing. Don't fool yourself. Don't think that you're going to attach yourself to Hashem by pretending that you're something else. You have to attach yourself to Hashem in the natural way that you grew. That's what the Torah is telling us. A person can't forget where he came from. A person can't forget his background. A person can't forget the neighborhood he grew up in. There's no such thing. Because then you're faking yourself. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. The word kesher, which means to tie yourself to Hashem, if you flip around the letters, it could also form the word sheker, which means a lie. A person could be lying to himself when he thinks he's being connected to Hashem. If he's connecting to Hashem in a false way, in a way that doesn't come natural to him, that's not his personal way, his personal service, then it's a lie. It's not true. Hashem wants each and every one of us to connect to Him the way that we grew. The way that we grew. And it means to fix the mistakes that we've made. It means to become who we can become in our bodies, with our personality, not to fake ourselves out. If we fake ourselves out, we're not really being connected. The Beis Hamikdash had to be built in a way that it's derech gilasim, in its natural way, the way that things grow, so to all of us, we have to connect to Hashem in the way that we grow naturally. And I mentioned before, why is it that that Yaakov Avinu had to plant these trees in Egypt? Why is it that he had to plant these trees in Egypt, like, preemptively necessary for us to build a Beis Hamikdash? But gold and silver, he left us by ourselves. It's Yaakov Avinu's telling you this thing, that the basic building blocks for the Beis Hamikdash, where were they developed? Where were the basic building blocks of the Beis Hamikdash developed? You know where? In Egypt, in exile. You know what the pasuk is telling us? You know Yaakov Avinu is telling each and every one of us? In your life, your goal is going to be making yourself like a Beis Hamikdash, right? That's the goal of each and every one of us. We want to become tzaddikim. We want to become people that Hashem has love for, that Hashem connects with, that Hashem, lives in us. But Yaakov Avinu is saying, you know how to do that? By not forgetting where you came from. Don't forget that you were one time in Mitzrayim. Don't pretend that once already you leave Egypt that, I was never there. Don't fake yourself out. Don't pretend you're something you're not. Don't convince yourself that in order to become a Beis Hamikdash, you have to change into something else. The same Jew who was in Egypt, it's the same Jew that becomes a Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, it's Davka, the basic building blocks, the basic infrastructure of the Beis Hamikdash were built with trees that grew where? In Mitzrayim. Davka in Mitzrayim, because that's what Yaakov Avinu was telling us. Yidden, when you leave Mitzrayim and you become holy Jews, you know how you're going to become holy Jews? By remembering that you were in Egypt. By remembering that you were in Egypt. This is an unbelievably important thing. Because, we go our lives, we learn all about previous generations. We learn all about how holy our ancestors were, and they were. But a person shouldn't think, chas v'shalom, that you can't become a tzaddik unless you were born in Europe. A person shouldn't think that you can't become a tzaddik unless you were born 100 years ago. A person could become a tzaddik living and being born in Queens, New York, 2011. A person could become the same, a Moshe Rabbeinu living here, even in Brooklyn, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter. It's all good. Any place that the neshama of a Jew is placed and implanted in, you have to connect to Hashem in the way that you grew, and not to trick yourself that you're something else. And all this is Shabbos. This is everything that this is all Shabbos. The pasuk says about Shabbos that Vayichulu Hashem, Vayichulu Hashemayim v'aretz v'chol tzivam, that the seventh, that on Shabbos Hashem completed, creating heaven and earth. So it's a problem. Each and every one of us grew up, and we all know this to be true. That when did Hashem finish creating the world? On Friday, right? Finished creating on Friday. And what did He do on Shabbos? He rested, right? That's we all know. So what does it mean? We say this every week. The pasuk says that Hashem finished creating on Shabbos. What was missing? He created the whole world on Friday. Finished was on Friday. So the Medrash says the following thing, that the one thing that the world was missing? Menucha. Tranquility, peace, calmness. The world was missing menucha. Ba Shabbos, ba menucha. Shabbos comes, and Hashem created, by resting on Shabbos, He created menucha, He created peace. So Shabbos, therefore, in essence, by resting on Shabbos, that was really the completion of the creation of the world. That's the Medrash. What does that mean? What does it mean that the world was missing peace? Peace is a creation. What does that mean? You know what it means? When Hashem finished creating the world on Friday, you know how miserable the world was? What happened on that Friday? The worst thing that ever took place in human history took place on that Friday. Adam Rishon ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and from then, it's just been terrible. The great, the highlight moment of human history was the 2 hours before he ate from the tree. Then everything was great. Once he ate from the tree, it's been terrible. So So think about it, Adam Rishon. He just ate from the tree of knowledge. He did the worst avera that's ever been done. He created catastrophic results for all of humanity until Mashiach comes. If there's anybody in the world that could think of himself as a bad guy, it's Adam Rishon after he ate from the tree. So when he looked at the world and he looked around and he looked at himself, he was disgusted, absolutely disgusted. So he said to himself, how could I come close to Hashem? How could I even begin to fix what I did? There's nothing for me to do. I'm completely terrible. The only way for me to come close is to just, Hashem has to recreate the world and start all over again. Shabbos comes and tells him no. Shabbos, the tranquility of Shabbos is that after all the stuff that you've done the past week, it's okay. After all the stuff you've done the past week, Shabbos comes and says, that doesn't define you. That doesn't define you. The menucha of Shabbos, the peacefulness of Shabbos, is that we're able to sit back and think throughout the week of all the stuff that we've done and still be at peace with ourselves and be at peace with the world. That's the true menucha of Shabbos. So when Hashem rested on Shabbos and He gave Adam Rishon tranquility, He gave him peace. What Adam Rishon came to terms with himself, and he was able to deal with himself, and he was able to look at the world and say, you know what, it's not terrible. I did some terrible stuff, and we'll have to fix it. But it's not terrible. I have to serve Hashem from the way I came. The world that I was built in, that's the way I have to serve Hashem and to come close to Him. Listen to the words of Rav Kook. These are very, very strong words. When this is in Shabbos. Look at the way he describes Shabbos. He says like this. Chutz mizeh, besides the holiness of Shabbos in and of itself, he mamsheches gamkein es koyach kol yemei hamaisa im chol yonoseim v'shuvloseim. Shabbos uplifts all the secular power, all the secular energy of the 6 days of the week. Shabbos uplifts. Shal yedei shein nizkarim b'kedushas haShabbos. When we remember Shabbos, heinam misraimim. Then everything that seems secular and everything that seems not so great and everything that seems terrible is uplifted and is given meaning by thinking about Shabbos. Uboyin hakor muchoshes. And even though we can't see it with our eyes and we can't feel it, we can't taste Shabbos with our mouths, hanefesh Yisraelis misaremes atzma. But the soul of a Jewish person is uplifted by Shabbos. Because when Shabbos comes, Shabbos tells us, you know what, you could eat cholent on Shabbos. You don't have to fast. You don't have to separate yourself. The same, you could be involved in the world. There's a mitzvah on Shabbos of Einig Shabbos. There's a mitzvah to be happy, to be delightful, to be happy on Shabbos. There's a mitzvah. The Torah is telling us that Shabbos comes. Shabbos gives us meaning. Shabbos gives meaning to the 6 days of the week. It uplifts the 6 days of the week. That no longer are you people that are inherently dejected and corrupted. You're good. Maybe you made some mistakes. You know, the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, one of his customs was that in his soup Friday night, he would put farfel. Little beans, whatever. You put like beans in his soup. Why? Because he used to say that everything that happened the 6 days of the week is verfallen. It's finished. Done. So farfel, verfallen, it play on words, he put that in his soup. I mean, it's a funny thing, but that's what Baal Shem Tov did. Baal Shem Tov is telling us that's what Shabbos is about. Shabbos is just forget it. The word baishes, which means embarrassment, if you flip on the letters, it's Shabbos. Shabbos comes and fixes the embarrassment that we have in ourselves. Because Shabbos tells us that everything we've done is verfallen. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I mean, you know, we have to fix it, but it didn't define you. It didn't make you a bad guy. This is such an important thing. So the Torah therefore says, you know, you're building a Mishkan. You're building a Beis HaMikdash in the desert. You're becoming holy Jews. It has to be connected with Shabbos. It has to be connected with Shabbos because Shabbos gives the Jew the ability to build a Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash is built from things that grew up in Mitzrayim. It's built by things in a natural way that they grow, and utterly and inherently connected to Beis HaMikdash is Shabbos, because Shabbos tells a Jew that after everything you've done, you could still have peace. You could still be at peace with yourself and be at peace with the world around you and be at peace with your background. And only with that understanding can a person truly build himself into a Beis HaMikdash and become who he has to become. Let me end off with a story. It's an unbelievable Maisa. Maisa goes, I think it was Rav Moshe Leib Sassover. Again, another Hasidic Rebbe. Well, you know, the names are just interchangeable when it comes to these types of stories, you know. Whoever it is, Rav Moshe Leib Sassover, that's the Maisa. So the story goes like this. He was going in a wagon, and he was going past a certain village, and all of a sudden he stopped the driver, and he said, there's something over here. I'm smelling, so to speak, the smell of Gan Eden. There's something in this town, I don't know, I'm smelling Gan Eden over here. We have to stop, we have to investigate where this is coming from. Okay. So the driver was used to this type of stuff already, so he pulls over and whatever, they go into the road, and like a hound, whatever, he's going and smelling, trying to triangulate the place that the thing was coming from, the smell was coming from, until he finally comes to a certain person's house. So he knocks on the door, and the guy was like, "Oh, Moshe Leib Sassover, sure, Rebbe, whatever you want." He says, "I'm smelling in your house the smell of Gan Eden. I don't know what the pshat is, but I'm smelling Gan Eden over here." He says, "Okay, fine, that's not so bad." So he lets him in, and it's fine. So he's sniffing around his house until he comes to one corner, to one closet in the basement, like the farthest point in the house. He comes to this closet, and he starts smelling. He says, "Whatever it's in here, whatever it is that I'm smelling, it's in this closet." So the guy's like, I don't know, maybe the Rebbe, you might be making a mistake. Whatever it is, it's definitely Gan Eden is not in this closet, trust me. So he's like, no, I'm telling you, I'm not wrong. It's in this closet. So the guy says to Rabbi, okay, listen, I'll open the closet to you on one thing, but please, Rabbi, I don't want you to judge me. Just, keep an open mind, okay? When you open the closet, okay, fine. So he opens the closet, and lo and behold, sitting on the bottom of the closet is a priest's outfit, the outfit of a priest. I don't know, whatever it's called, whatever it is, the collar and the whole thing, the cardinal stuff. Anyway, it's there on the bottom of the closet. Okay, now you have to understand. I mean, this is like, a little shtetl in Poland, 1850. I mean, the farthest thing from any Jewish person's mind at the time was being involved in any way in Christianity. That was like the end. You know what I mean? Like that was, you could eat treif on Yom Kippur, chazi on Yom Kippur, but like to intermarry and to think about Christianity, that was like a huge no-no. So the Rebbe is like looking at this thing, and he smells the garment. It's from this garment that Gan Eden is coming from. He smells in this garment Gan Eden. So this is, what's the story? So the guy's like, okay, I'm very embarrassed, but the Rebbe is asking, I'll tell you the story. The story is like this. A number of years ago, I was the gabbai in the shul. I was the official gabbai collecting money for tzedakah and so on and so forth. So what happened was that there was a certain orphan that he lost his parents, his whole family. He was just by himself, and he was left with this piece of land that he had to take care of. So the problem was that his land was not producing a lot of food, and he owed money for taxes. He owed a lot of money, and the problem was he didn't have family. He didn't have anybody to go to. So the landowner, who was collecting the taxes, took him into prison. He arrested him. And he said, listen, if by this and this date you don't get the money, you're being executed. That's it. Finished. You know what I mean? So do whatever you can. In 2 weeks, for example, whatever it is, end the story. Game over. Okay? So the kid, this Yosem comes crying to me and he says, guy, I need money. I need, 10,000 ruble for tzedakah, for taxes. And I have no way to get this money. So the guy was like, the truth is, it was just after Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Everybody gave their tzedakah already. It's a poor town. I don't know. I mean, I'll do my best, but I don't know where I'm going to get this money from. Okay, he does his can. So he goes around to the Jewish neighborhood, goes around by the Jews, and everybody's giving as much as they can, but it's a poor community. They can't raise that much money. It's just impossible. So he's on his way home, and he's trying to think what he could do. So then he realizes, you know what? Let me go to the non-Jewish part of town. I have no choice. Let me go to the non-Jewish part of town, and whatever. I'll try to, get out some money from them, even though most of them are anti-Semitic, but I have to do something. So he goes to the non-Jews, and he sees that basically the whole town is emptied into the bar. That's I guess it was like some party or something, so everybody's hanging out in the bar. Okay, so he has no choice. He goes to the bar, and this guy clearly looks like a Jew, little beard and payas and everything, Hasidic. So he walks in there, how like he goes, he flips the door open, and all the forks drop, it's like a shocker and the thing that the Jew's in there. So he goes to a group of guys that he knows are wealthy people, and he says to them the whole story that this guy needs money and he's going to be killed in 2 weeks. I mean, we need to help him out. So these guys are a little bit drunk as it is. So they figured to themselves, okay, let's have some fun with this guy. So they say, you know what? I'll tell you like this. Start dancing, dance for us, and we'll give you some quarters, whatever. So fine, I'll do anything. So he starts dancing, he flips him some quarters, and they drink. They have some more l'chaim. Eventually, they're getting more and more drunk as this goes on, until they come up with a big idea. He tells them that these quarters are not enough. I need all the money. So they say like this. They're completely drunk. They say like this. Listen, we'll give you all the money you want. Not a problem. We have it in our pockets. Not a big deal. One condition. We have the costume of a priest over here. Okay, we have it. We could get it. Whatever. We want you to put this on, and we're gonna have a whole parade. We're gonna parade you throughout the streets of the Goyish part, the Jewish part. You're gonna parade you, and you're gonna look like you converted, whatever. You became this priest, and you're gonna be throwing money and food to everybody, and it's gonna be a big party. And this guy knows that there's not a chance he's going to marry off his kids anymore. I mean, this is just like it. That's it. He can't walk in the shul after this happens. But he's like, I have no choice. I have to raise the money for this guy. I have no choice. So he, takes a shot and fine, let's do it. So he puts on the clothes and go on the parade for a number of hours, and he's really mavuz. I mean, when he goes to the Jewish part, they're throwing tomatoes at him. They think this guy, went off the derech and converted. So whatever, he does what he has to do for tzedakah. So after the whole thing is over, the guy said, "You did very, very well." They give him the money, and you could keep the outfit too. Okay, so he runs immediately with the money to the landowner. He gives him to pay the taxes, and they release the guy, and that's it. So the guy comes back home. The guy gets stuck with the collector of the money and with his clothing, and he feels. I mean, just feels terrible. He feels like that was just like the worst experience I've ever had. So he takes the clothing, throws it just in the bottom of the closet in the basement. Just I want to forget about that whole thing and just like forget it. I don't want to think about that anymore. So he's telling this to Ramesh Lev Sassover. So this is the story with the clothing. So Ramesh Lev Sassover, he says, you're embarrassed about what you did. You're embarrassed about it. You feel dejected. This is your ticket to Olam Haba. That's the way you're getting in. This is the way, you're Mamash Beis HaMikdash, and you know how you're Beis HaMikdash? Through the Galch's clothing, through the Christians, the priest's clothing. And the Moshe Lev said to him that after you die, instead of wearing the regular tachrichim that a Jew wears being buried, you should bury yourself in these clothing. And I guarantee you, if you're buried in these clothing, your body will not decompose and you'll go straight to Olam Haba. So the mice is not over. A number of years ago, about 80 so years, no, even more, less than that. There was a certain point in time where the Polish government were, they were going to pave over a certain cemetery in Poland, wherever this guy was from, and therefore, the Rabbanim got together and decided we have to just, excavate the graves that are remaining and transport them to Israel. So what happened was, this guy, like it said on the tombstone, the guy who converted, who was like a priest, whatever, it was like some odd thing. They dug him up. And it's this person, it's this guy. He was his body was complete. There was not one part of him that was decomposed. He was utterly complete. Every hair in his head was still intact, and he was wearing this priestly, the priest clothing, buried in a Jewish cemetery. So they did some research, and they found out this Maisa from old Jews that still remembered it. What's this Maisa telling us? What does this tell us? It's the same thing. We think this guy thought that the worst part of his life, that this episode was the worst thing that ever happened to him. He had to be completely disconnected from it, and to become a good Jew, he had to become something different. He had to redefine himself. We have to recognize, we have to remember that it's our past, it's our history, it's our personal baggage that we carry with us. That's our ticket to Olam Haba. That's our way in. That's our way in to connect to Hashem through our lives and through through our natural process of growth. Like this guy, we can't forget what we've done. Don't forget what you've done. Remember what you've done. Like Avram Avinu, right? A person has to don't forget his past. Use his past to serve Hashem. So Be'ez Hashem, when we think about this in a deep way and we connect to Hashem through our natural God-given talents, we'll become Beis HaMikdashes like we're supposed to be. And eventually, when enough of us become mini Beis HaMikdashes, we'll come together, to have the full Beis HaMikdash. Meher V'Meinu. Amen.